horrific tragedy destroyed 3 floors of an apartment building in a small town near Ukraine's capital. 30 injured. The locals fear it was a terrorist attack, but who was behind it? Don't miss out. The psychics will reveal the truth behind the fatal explosion. This is Psychic Investigations, a project of true and astonishing stories. People who call themselves clairvoyants investigate incredible paranormal phenomena and tangled criminal cases. This is Katya. She's 24. She lives in a small town not far from Kiev and works as a cashier at a gas station. She reached out to the psychics for help because 12 years ago, she lost someone very dear to her, her cousin, Yulia Klimas, who was 3 years older. Katya says she still mourns her.
She'll live in my heart forever. These tears.
Yulia's body was found under the rubble of a high-rise whose top 3 floors had collapsed in broad daylight. What happened? What caused the collapse? And what was Yulia doing there?
To this day, it's still unclear how it happened.
Yulia's parents died when she was little, and she was raised by her grandmother. Katya's and Yulia's mothers were sisters, so the girls grew up side by side and loved each other.
Yulia was my dearest person. We spent every single day together. I loved her so much.
After her parents' death, Yulia lived in this building with her grandmother. It was a Friday, the last school day before the fall break.
She got up around 7:30, got dressed quickly, and left. She waved to me and said, "Bye, Grandma, love you." And then she went.
However, on that terrible day, Yulia didn't show up at school, and just a few hours later, her body was found under a concrete slab on the 9th floor of the same apartment building where she had lived with her parents.
That morning, a 9-story building collapsed. 12 apartments were completely destroyed and 24 others damaged.
How Yulia ended up in the ruins remains a mystery. After her parents died, no one lived in the apartment. Occasionally, Yulia and her grandmother would only visit it to clean or grab some belongings. No one imagined she'd be there at the time of the collapse, as she had left for school that morning.
The initial theory was a terrorist attack.
It was a tragedy for the entire town.
Besides Yulia, 2 other victims were found under the rubble. One was 15-year-old Yulia Morska, who lived on the 8th floor with her parents and older sister. Her family wasn't home at the time. The third victim was 37-year-old Serhiy Vahin, a construction worker who rented an apartment on the 9th floor.
There are dozens of theories about what caused the collapse, from terrorism to fireworks or a gas explosion.
Katya says the worst part is that nearly everyone in town secretly blames Yulia Klimas. They call her a terrorist who planned everything down to the last detail and then rigged an explosive device and blew up the building.
I heard she was found wearing a black dress with wires in her hands, or that she went there herself and blew up the place.
People say the wires in Yulia's hands were part of an explosive device. Living with the idea that your dearest person might be a terrorist is unbearable, Katya says. What's more, lately, Yulia has started appearing to her in dreams, asking for psychics to investigate the circumstances of her death. That's why the strongest participants from Psychic Investigations, Olena Kurilova and Kayal Alekperov, took on her case.
Last night I had a dream of a building being shaken by some kind of entities, and then part of it collapsed.
I took the photo, and immediately birds came flying in. The girl wants to send a message. I see a grown woman carrying something in her hands, and then she presses some kind of button, and then an explosion.
Right now I can't make sense of what happened, but it feels like a kind of purgatory.
Katya invited the psychics to her home, where she lives with her mother and grandmother. This is where Yulia Klimas lived for the 4 years before she died.
Hello.
Salam alaikum.
Elena, Kayal, please come in.
The psychics enter Yulia's room.
On the last day of her life, Yulia woke up in this very apartment and then went to meet her death.
Yulia's relatives say she almost never visited her parents' old apartment alone, only with her grandma, and only when she had to. So how did she end up buried under the rubble?
It's a map of disaster. Truthfully, there could have been more victims. But it feels like some unseen force spared the lives of other residents.
The collapse happened at 8:45 a.m. Usually around that time, people are still getting ready for work or errands.
That's when kids head to school or daycare. But right at that moment, the courtyard was empty.
It seems the tragedy was only meant to kill 3 people. Everyone else was saved by some kind of forces. I saw a man and a woman. He pushed her gently with his hand, saving her life.
It's quite possible it was Valentina. She was the yard cleaner there. Moments before the collapse, she was standing in the courtyard with 2 co-workers. The man playfully nudged her colleague, causing her to step slightly to the side. The next second, a piece of the concrete slab came crashing down right where she had just been standing.
The maintenance guy ran up and bumped her. The fell exactly where the woman had been standing before. The slab landed next to me, not far from me.
The psychics continue working in the room where Yulia Klimas once lived. But could she really have been a terrorist?
I sense Yulia had incredibly positive energy.
Like a ray of light. She always smiled.
She was our little sunshine. She was very kind.
She tells me to hug you and say, "I love you." She says she loves you a lot.
I cried so much, I miss her so deeply.
All right, so what happened that day? I sense some kind of ransom involved.
I kept communicating with Yulia's spirit, and I became more convinced she had absolutely no chance of surviving that day.
She wasn't supposed to be there that day, right?
Yes.
Was she supposed to be at school?
I see Yulia agreeing to meet a friend of hers, but she never showed up.
That's absolutely right. Elena waited for her for a long time that morning, but she never came.
Olena was Yulia's closest friend. She visits Yulia's grave twice a year, on Yulia's birthday and the anniversary of her death.
During the second class, our form teacher came in and told us the building had collapsed.
We'd really like to visit the place where it happened.
The psychics head to the site of the tragedy that happened 12 years ago.
I need to walk around a bit and work.
While the psychics perform their rituals, a crowd of locals gathers around them. Everyone wants answers about the real cause of the tragedy.
No one knows anything, even today. We want the truth.
Olena, I see through the eyes of a man who witnessed the tragedy. He lives nearby, and I think he's watching me right now.
The man's name is Vitali. He lives in the opposite building. A few minutes before the tragedy, he was going to go run errands. He had even come down the stairs.
I almost exited, but then for some reason turned back.
The man says it felt like a voice inside told him to return home.
I suddenly felt the urge to go back. Right then, the entire building shook.
So did some mysterious force really save this man?
I saw another man whose guardian angel literally snatched him from the jaws of death.
The eyewitnesses say that when the building began to collapse, the young man flew out of a 5th-floor window. He landed on the entry canopy, alive, completely unharmed.
Somehow, he reacted just in time. When the walls started collapsing, he jumped out and was saved by a miracle.
So it turns out that many who were in or near the building at the time somehow managed to escape. And only the 3 victims had no chance to survive. What really happened here?
Something was inside the house. It felt like a vortex and it reeked of death. It's as if some force grabbed those 3, 2 girls and a man, and hurled them straight into the heart of the horror. We decided to go up to the apartment where Yulia used to live with her parents.
The apartment has had new owners for over a decade. Katya doesn't know who they are. The door is locked. Looks like nobody's home.
Let's check other apartments.
This was the Morsky family's home. After their daughter died, her parents were relocated to another place. The current owners don't answer the door either. It seems they're not home either.
I need to perform a ritual.
To conduct the ritual, Kayal Alekperov heads to the 9th floor, where Yulia Klimas once lived with her parents. Meanwhile, Olena Kurilova continues her work on the 8th, where the Morskys lived.
Did you live here?
I'm the sister of Yulia, who died on the 8th floor.
This is Natalia. She's 30. Her sister, Yulia Morska, was one of the 3 residents who died in the tragedy. Natalia shared that her sister and Yulia Klimas had been childhood friends and, for a time, even attended the same school.
They were here in this apartment?
Neither Yulia showed up at school that day. Their bodies were found close to one another. Yulia Klimas was holding a bottle of nail polish and a small mirror. Yulia Morska was sitting in an armchair.
But if Yulia Klimas truly was a terrorist, how could her friend not have noticed? Were the girls in on it together, or did they simply decide to skip school, especially since it was the last day before break?
Where's Kayal? Let's head upstairs.
I sense that during the tragedy, one more man died, and one of his loved ones is here with us now.
My husband died before my eyes.
This is Olena. When the tragedy occurred, she was home with her husband, Serhiy. He died in her arms. Just a minute before the disaster, someone rang the doorbell.
I went to answer the door, and then I had pain in my abdomen.
Olena was pregnant. When the doorbell rang, she went to answer, but the sudden pain stopped her. She turned back to Serhiy. The ringing continued. He got up, dressed, and went to open the door. He never made it.
The door became the killer. When he leaned in to look through the peephole, there was a bang, and the door crushed him against the wall.
Something pulled her away from danger and summoned him to be killed instead.
None of the deaths were random. It seems some force deliberately gathered those people into the building. And yet, each of them, the girls and the man, had their own reason, their own path to the world of the dead. I saw the final years of Yulia's mother's life.
Yulia Klimas' mother's name was Larisa. She died of multiple sclerosis when she was 32.
When I hugged Katya, I heard a woman's voice say, Yulia. Like a mother calling her child.
Katya didn't understand what it meant, but her grandmother explained everything. Just days before the tragedy, Yulia had shared something really chilling.
She said, "Grandma, I was doing my homework when I heard Mom's voice calling, Yulia, Yulia." There was nobody home, but the voice kept calling.
Did Yulia's mother claim her own daughter's life?
Then I saw Yulia's father. He had a noose around his neck.
Volodymyr Klimas was found hanged on his apartment balcony. His wife discovered him. The police investigation confirmed suicide.
He was a soldier.
Yulia's father served in Afghanistan.
At 18, Yulia's father was drafted into the army and sent to war in Afghanistan, where he faced sheer hell. He was captured and held in a pit for 6 months.
He survived on scraps they gave him.
By some miracle, he managed to escape, and at 21, returned home, where, tall and athletic, he met a kind and pretty hairdresser. That was Larissa, his future wife.
The deaths of Yulia's father, her mother, and Yulia herself are all connected somehow. It seemed someone wiped out their family, and the thread led back to the father. We decided to go outside and reflect a bit. While we were working upstairs, I saw the spirits of Yulia, her father, and an elderly woman.
It's her grandma on her father's side. What was her name? Nadia, Nelia, Nina?
Grandma will know.
Nina? I see her sobbing uncontrollably at a funeral. Hello? So you were Larissa's mother? And they were your in-laws? And her name was Nina, right? She passed away, right? Cancer? I see Nina. She received a body in a sealed metal coffin. She's devastated, even though it's not her blood relative. She shouts, "I don't believe in you. You don't exist. I reject you. I don't believe."
Volodymyr was drafted into Afghanistan along with his closest friend, who was killed just a few months later.
Volodymyr's mother went to the funeral. The boy was his school friend, and she cried her eyes out. She said there was no God because he wouldn't allow this. She feared they might bring her own son back the same way.
With that act, Yulia's grandmother stripped her entire bloodline of God's protection. After that, even a small amount of negativity was enough to destroy the family. I see Volodymyr and Larissa stepping into some kind of cross.
And this didn't happen here. After Nina's death, something was scattered on the threshold of your home, right? That's magical influence to burn the entire bloodline to ashes. It came from Nina's neighbor. The women had a fierce falling out over a piece of land. The woman lived next door. She died long ago.
She was very mean.
It escalated. They couldn't agree about plot boundaries or something.
And that's where Yulia got her ticket to the other world. First, her grandmother, unaware of what she'd done, removed divine protection from the family. Then she feuded with a neighbor who harbored deep hatred. After Nina's death, Yulia's parents stepped on the magical cross that woman made. It was a death curse, and soon after, the entire family began to die out. The other girl who died in the collapse also had a ticket to the other world, but she earned it through her own sin.
But Yulia was accused of terrorism. Could she have had anything to do with the collapse of the building she once lived in?
I see her wearing simple everyday clothes. She had no special plans that day.
The project's detective interviewed nearly everyone who knew Yulia Klimas, as well as those involved in the rescue effort. All of them claim when her body was found, she was dressed in ordinary clothes. There was nothing in her hands or nearby that resembled any kind of explosive device.
They found her wearing jeans, definitely not the black dress people claimed.
Does it mean Yulia wasn't a terrorist after all, and the black clothing and wires are just rumors? What was the real cause of the collapse then?
I sensed a woman pressing a button, and then the building gave way.
After the tragedy, one more woman was found alive under the rubble. It was a cleaner named Halina. Olena, the widow of Serhiy Vahin, recalled that seconds before the collapse, someone rang their doorbell. Her husband looked through the peephole and saw a woman. It was likely Halina, the cleaner, who never got an answer and began pressing the elevator button. But why had she come? What did she want?
I sensed a strange odor. It was that smell that triggered the collapse. Gas had started leaking from the 3rd, maybe 4th or 5th floor, and it kept rising higher.
Serhii Vahin's wife remembers that when Helena was found under the debris, she was disoriented, screaming and repeating one word, gas. Could she have sensed the leak moments before the disaster struck and, hoping to warn the residents, rung the nearest door of Serhii and Olena's apartment? When no one answered, she headed to other floors to ask if anyone else smelled it.
The woman on the 9th floor pressed the elevator button. It created a spark, and that was it.
The gas came from somewhere above.
If household gas began leaking from the pipes that run to apartments on the lower floors, the flammable mixture could rise. Since natural gas is lighter than air, then it accumulated around the 9th and technical floors, near the elevator shaft. Pressing the button could have triggered a spark that caused the explosion. A fire didn't erupt only because there were no flammable materials in the blast's epicenter.
The cleaner trapped under the rubble didn't do it on purpose. It could have been anyone.
We're so grateful you came.
Thank you so much.